Hey everyone, and welcome back to episode 7 of How Have We Never Seen This Before? This week we watched Ladybird.
Stay tuned to hear us discuss our boy Timmy C, how we can never get anyone's name right, and our unfortunate early 2000s hairstyles. This is a podcast where two best friends talk about movies they've never seen before.
I'm Isabel.
And I'm Lauren.
And this is How Have We Never Seen This Before? This week's winner of the Guess the Movie contest is my friend Georgia from up at college. So congratulations, Georgia. And if you want to be the next winner of our Guess the Movie contest, make sure to follow us on Instagram at How Have We Never Podcast and check out our stories each week.
Okay. Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
This is our first time recording in the morning, so we'll see how this goes. All right, so this week we watched Ladybird with Circe.
Saoirse?
Saoirse?
I think it's Saoirse.
Saoirse? We'll hope that's right.
In my head, I know that it's Saoirse, but whenever I read her name, I think Saoirse.
But yeah, with her and Timothy Chalamet.
My boy, Timmy C.
Also Beanie.
Yeah.
Beanie Feinstein. Or Feinstein. Right? That's her name, right? It's not Feldstein.
I think it may be Feldstein.
Oh boy, hold on.
I don't know. I could be wrong.
It's Feldstein. I'm so sorry. So that's our theme for the last 2 weeks. Beanie, Feldstein, and high school. All right.
High school coming of age movies.
I love them. I said it before and I'll say it again. I love them.
Same.
But anyway.
Yes.
Let's get into it. So before the movie, as it starts, there's a quote across the screen that is, anybody who talks about California hedonism has never spent a Christmas in Sacramento. And I didn't get it.
I didn't get it, but I saw that it was a Joan Didion quote, so I was like, it's probably cool. I love Joan Didion.
I mean, I don't know, Sacramento looked pretty cool to me. Like,
it looked so beautiful.
I would want to live in Sacramento.
Same.
So, I don't know what you're on, Ladybird. Anyway, so it looks like you don't know her name right away. They don't say the names until a little bit in.
Yeah.
So, it looks like this girl and her mom are in a hotel, and like they wake up and they're like, "You ready to go home?" And they're heading home. So they're driving, and it turns out they were on a college road trip, which I was on many of those.
Same.
And they're driving with a book on tape, and it's The Grapes of Wrath. Once the book finishes, they're both crying, and the girl wants to turn on the radio right away, and her mom's like, "Let's just sit with what we've listened, like what we just heard."
That's like me whenever I drive with my dad. Like, I always, the second I get into the car, I'm like, "Can you play some music, please?" And he's always saying to me, "Do we need music? Can't we just sit and listen to silence?"
That's
like,
my mom too.
What?
She's like, I hate driving with music, and I'm like, how do you? How? Like, I need this.
Drive to music, yeah.
When I was learning to drive, my first time, like, I had driving lessons with the same guy you had. Remember?
Oh my god, what's his name?
I don't know.
I had one driving lesson.
I think I had 6, but my first time, I was so nervous. When I got out of the car, when we got back home, my hands hurt so bad because I've been clutching the wheel. But the next time he it was a Sunday, so he had the Eagles game playing, and just like having that noise relaxed me because it like distracted me from not being so focused. So I don't know, like I always have to have something on when I'm driving.
Same. If you drive with me, it's gonna be a concert. Like,
Yeah.
I will make the guitar sounds with my voice. I will sing.
But anyway, while they're in the car, we find out her name is Ladybird, but also it's her real name is Christine, but she's asked everyone to call her Ladybird. And she's saying how she wishes that she could live through something. She's like, and I didn't realize this until probably the end of the movie, but this is taking place in like 2002, 2003.
Hmm.
And she's like this year doesn't count, but it's like 9/11. I
Yeah,
don't
there is
know.
an actual like war going on. She's living
Yeah.
through it.
But then they start arguing, and they argue throughout the entire movie, pretty much. But she's saying that she wants to go to the East Coast for school. And I was just thinking, like, everyone on the East Coast wants to go to the West Coast for college, and everybody on the West Coast wants to come to the East Coast.
The grass is always greener.
Yeah. But her mom is like, you can't even get into those schools. You don't think about anyone but yourself. And, like, I mean, kind of, yeah, but also, like, if my mom said that to me, I'd be heartbroken.
Hmm. You don't tell a kid straight up that she can't get into those schools because what's the problem with just applying? Like,
Yeah.
if she doesn't get in, she doesn't get in, but you can't tell her that she can't because if she's paying for the applications herself, then why not just wait and see?
And even if you don't think you don't think she can get into it, call it a reach school. Don't
Yeah.
call it a you can't get in school.
Yeah, her mom was being so mean.
I don't know, I just felt so bad. And then I was just like after her mom said that, I was just like, wow, like I can't imagine. And then Lady Bird jumps out of the car.
How did she only end up with a broken arm?
Like they must have been going like rather slowly for her only to end up with a broken arm.
But you could see how fast they were driving. Like, she would have had a concussion, like, completely scraped her whole body.
Maybe she's like done it before. I don't know. She seemed rather prepared for it.
I don't know. Tuck and roll. I can't say I've ever jumped out of a moving vehicle before, so
No, I can't say I have either, but it would be quite the experience if I ever did.
yeah.
Um, but anyway, then
So we get to like the montage of her in Catholic school, and we get to see at church Timmy C.
Timmy. You also see that Beanie is in this movie and this like scene too, but it reminded me so much of Gossip Girl with the girls on the one side and the boys on the other.
Yeah. Well, if you go to a Catholic girls' school, there's usually the brother school, and it's
Mm-hmm.
the boy equivalent, and I guess they all go to church together, under the same parish. So I guess they have to be separated because boys can't interact with girls.
I also never went to Catholic school, so this was all new to me.
Oh, this gave me some horrible flashbacks to my time at Catholic school.
The one thing
Um,
I couldn't believe though was that she was allowed to have pink hair.
I know. Oh, I wrote that down. In Catholic school, we weren't allowed to have nail polish, piercings that weren't two studs. You couldn't have makeup except for like lip gloss. And I'm trying to remember what the other thing. Oh, you couldn't dye your hair. You could only have a certain haircut too. So this is unrealistic.
Our high school wasn't Catholic. We couldn't dye our hair. There's no way she could have had this in Catholic school. But
Mhm.
I don't know. Maybe 2002 was a different time. I don't
Yeah.
know.
But also the principal, the sister, I forget her name, but she is kind of cool.
Yeah.
So maybe she allows it.
I think she likes Lady Bird.
Yeah.
But anyway, we also find out that Lady Bird is running for student body president, not to win or anything, but just because she always runs. Which I thought like that might go somewhere, but that was kind of the only mention of it.
Uh-huh.
And she's with this head nun. I don't know her name, but she's like, you should do a theater. Like you might enjoy being in
You
the
should
theater.
do a theater.
Sorry. There's they do a musical in the fall and then a play in the spring. And then Ladybird is walking home with her friend
Oh, wait.
Beanie. Oh, I missed something.
Sorry. I didn't mean to be so aggressive. Um, we missed the fact that Lady Bird did sign up for the musical, and so did Julie, who is Beanie.
And then they walk home and they're walking through the really nice neighborhoods and just looking at all the houses and saying what they would do if they lived in them. And I love that. Like, I love going on Zillow and looking at rich people houses and just imagining.
They especially like this really nice blue house, and this is important because it comes up later. They picture their lives in it if they lived there, and so just thought I would throw that out there.
Yeah, that house is actually rather important for many points in this movie.
Yeah.
Then they go to the grocery store, which is where her brother and her brother's girlfriend work.
Mhm.
And she's just kind of standing in one of the checkout lanes and is reading a magazine while her brother's in another one and is like, put the magazine back. Like, if you're not going to pay for it, just like go. And she's like, don't be a Republican. And then we also see that her mom works at a psychiatric hospital and she often works 2 shifts a day. She's always really busy with work, and that's where a lot of her stress comes from because a psychiatric hospital is a very stressful job.
Mhm. So you kind of see how stressed she is at work and at home, but when she's driving, and she just basks in Sacramento and takes everything in and listens to music, or I don't know if she was listening to music, whatever. She is finally at peace.
Yeah.
And so right when she gets back to her home from a hard day at work, the music cuts and automatically it's chaotic.
Yeah, and it's also the morning, so she worked the night shift at this hospital, and this is breakfast for everyone. We also find out that her Lady Bird's brother's girlfriend lives with them, and you can see that there's this good relationship that she has with her dad, but a bad one with her mom. Her and her mom are always arguing, but also at the same time they have like good moments together. But she's definitely always on a good page with her dad. And then her dad goes to drop her off at school, but she asks him to drop her off about a block away. She's ashamed of their car, just like the way how they're not as rich as everyone else at this school.
That's so mean.
I know. It's really sad.
Like, her dad was so cute. I loved him.
Before he drops her off, she asks him to fill out financial aid forms for schools on the East Coast because her mom wants her to go to the UC schools and all the state schools so that they can pay in-state tuition, but she wants to go somewhere else. But she asks him to fill out the financial aid forms without telling her mom so that she can fight that battle later. And as she's walking into school, she runs into Julie getting dropped off by her mom and her mom's boyfriend, who she calls him Uncle. I forget like his name, but he's also David Wallace.
David Wallace. I love him.
I was like, wow, there's so many good people in this movie.
Oh, we're referring to David Wallace from The Office, if you didn't know.
Yeah, I guess not everybody knows that.
Yeah.
We also see this girl Jenna in front of her like Range Rover or whatever, and you don't really know much about her, but you're kind of assuming she might be the mean girl or something. And she's also the girl from The Giver. You like The Giver movie?
I thought she looked familiar.
Yeah, also her brother looks super familiar, but I can't tell you where he's from either.
Her brother?
Lady Bird's brother, not Jenna's brother.
Lady Bird's brother is that guy from The Fosters.
Oh, okay.
One of Callie's love interests that's not Brandon.
not Callie.
Oh, Mariana.
Mariana. Yeah.
Wow, who would have thought the Fosters would come up so frequently in these podcasts? Yeah, so then, it cuts to Julie and Ladybird eating the communion wafers.
It's like it looks like a locker room or something, and one girl comes in and is like, "You can't eat the wafers," and they're like, "They're not consecrated. We can eat them."
Yeah, I
Um,
mean, before they're blessed, they're just tasteless crackers,
I mean, after they're blessed, they're still tasteless
right?
crackers. And then there is the theater auditions.
Wait, sorry, can I say something? I don't know why I gasp so loudly every time I want to go back.
Yes, you can say something.
Can we just talk about the girl who said, like, stop eating the communion wafers? I had that same exact headband that I wore throughout all of elementary school. Do you know the one I'm
The,
talking about?
it's like the one that's like,
Like zigzags.
yeah,
Yeah. Did you have one of those?
yeah,
And you would just like straight up push your entire like hair back
yeah.
and then have your hair down and have it overlapping the
Mm-hmm.
headband.
It's such a bad look.
It is not cute. I thought she looked so bad. And
Doesn't she have a rolly backpack too?
yeah,
That's me. That was me.
I never stooped so low to have a rolly backpack. Just letting you
Oh.
know, but I did have that headband.
Well, I didn't wear that headband, but I had the rolly backpack, so we found who we are in this movie.
What ages did you have a rolly backpack for?
Up until till middle school.
Do you think you didn't have one in 5th and 6th grade, right?
No, I might have had one for like 2 weeks in 5th grade, and then I was like, "Mom, I can't."
Good, because I wouldn't have been your friend.
But anyway, middle school.
Ew.
This is high school.
Yeah, why are we talking about
um.
this?
Anyway, now we're at the theater audition, and everyone's doing their thing. This reminded me of High School Musical when they do the auditions. I was just gonna say I didn't know what song Ladybird was singing, but Julie was really good.
Yeah, I wrote that too. But I like how they kept this pretty realistic to how high schoolers would actually perform at an audition. I thought that oftentimes high school movies that have a musical in them, the singers are usually like trained singers who can just belt a song out. But everyone in this movie was pretty realistic and pretty terrible, which is good because that's how high school is.
Yeah, I like the only thing was that when we performed like or like auditioned for our High School Musical, we didn't get like a piano player. We just had to sing.
Oh, I'm having flashbacks.
It was very uncomfortable.
Yeah, it would just be the director and the music guy.
But yeah, during the auditions, there's one boy named Danny who's singing, and when Lady Bird sees him, she's like love at first sight or something. She just like keeps staring at him and wants to get to know him better.
Can I just tell you that the second I saw him singing on stage, I knew exactly how this movie would go.
Oh, really?
They set it up so perfectly that I was like, I know.
Yeah, but before we find out he's gay, Lady Bird really likes him, and she's like flirting with him every chance she gets.
I love Danny.
Yeah, Danny's really good.
My heart.
And but before the flirting begins, we find out like who got what part, and everybody gets a part, but Julie got a better part than Lady Bird, so she was a little sad. But then Lady Bird goes to the grocery store with her mom, and she sees Danny, and she's like trying to talk to him and be like, "I have these hot rollers for your hair that you can use to make your part in the musical like more realistic." I don't know what musical they're doing though.
Neither do I. Maybe it's a Catholic musical.
Yeah. And then we go to theater practice, and they're like playing all these theater games.
Ugh.
I was just like, wow.
I miss theater games. They're so
Theater
fun.
games are fun. Yeah.
Yeah. But then we get to one game where the priest, who's the director, first of all, I love him. He's
He's
so
great.
adorable. But he's like, "Oh, let's play this game. Whoever cries first wins." To tap into our emotions. Not even 10 seconds go by and he's like full on sobbing. Meanwhile, no one else in the room is crying.
That made me so sad.
Yeah, I love him, and my heart broke when he cried.
He's such a pure soul.
Mhm.
But it's like, it's weird. Like, right after this crying game, Ladybird is sitting outside with Danny and this other girl who's,
She was in that show with Ross Lynch.
yeah, she's Allie from Austin and Allie.
Oh, that's the show.
But that's the only time she was in this movie. But she's like talking about how I think the theater director's son died from an overdose or had an overdose or something, or just died young,
Mm-hmm.
and that's why he's sad. But that was then she was like, "Oh, there's my mom. Gotta go. Bye." I was like, "Wow, okay." And once she leaves, Ladybird and Danny are there alone together, and she gives Danny the hot rollers, and they're flirting back and forth.
Danny was
Kind of.
really putting on the charm.
And he also tells her how he had a dream about her. And then it's the next day or just another school day, and they're in math class, and Julie has a crush on the math teacher, who also seemed very familiar. I don't know where I know him
Wait,
from.
you know him from Legally Blonde.
Really?
He's the mean guy, Warner. No, is that?
No, he's not.
Yeah, he is. Hold on. Okay, he is. Oh, he's in Shameless. He was in the show Greek. He played Evan Chambers. That's why I thought he might have been Warner, because he plays a similar role.
I probably know him from Shameless. They just had like a really good cast, like all around.
Oh my god, we got so off topic.
You know. Oh, okay. Math, right. In math class, Julie has a crush on the math teacher who is not Warner from Legally Blonde, but he was on Shameless. Anyway.
And Greek.
We also find out that Ladybird is bad at math for whatever reason. I don't know, she's just bad at math. And then they have a square dance.
Wait, I forgot to say that Julie is good at math.
Does anything come of that?
Yeah. This will be later, I'll mention it.
Anyway, yes, Julie is good at math. She's very good at math. And Ladybird is bad. And then they have a school dance, and it's like either cowboy themed or it's a square dance, because square dances are something that they do here.
Yeah.
In the elementary schools, like they dance. Everyone has to learn how to do a square dance. Anyway, they're at the dance, and Ladybird goes up to Danny and asks him to dance, and a nun comes up and is like, "Leave 6 inches for the Holy Spirit."
They actually do that. They say that.
Oh, I believe it, yeah. Then after the dance, Ladybird is waiting outside with Julie and Danny, and Julie's mom pulls up and she's like, "Okay, let's go." And Ladybird's like, "No, my mom's coming." Wink, wink, my mom's coming. So she can stay and hang out with Danny. And they're just talking about what they want to do with their lives, and Danny says his dream's going to Paris. And there's like some tension building, kind of, and Ladybird's getting nervous because they looks like they're gonna kiss. And
Before they kiss, though, they're talking about learning French. And Ladybird's like, why would you ever need to learn French? And he says that he wants to learn French to go to Paris. And it reminds me of us taking French for no reason. Bonjour.
We're not speaking bad French again on this podcast. But then they kiss, and it's very passionate. I guess it's like kind of like, I don't know how to like explain it.
All the kissing in this movie is so bad, and I'm glad because it kind of is accurate. It was just everything happened so fast.
Yeah, it's very fast. That's a good way to explain it. And then she runs home and is screaming because she's so happy. But she walks in and her parents are talking, and they're saying how like they're trying to plan for their future because, as it turns out, her dad lost his job. And Ladybird like doesn't make a noise for them to know that she's here until she runs up to her room and kind of slams the door. And then her mom comes into her room and is like yelling at her about how her room was messy and that she needs to clean her room and put her clothes in the wash so that her clothes look nice, so that her rich friend's parents will hire her dad, and they won't hire her if she looks slumpy. I don't know.
Slumpy?
I don't know a word for
Is
it.
that a
'Cause
word?
yeah. I don't know.
Sloppy?
Dumpy? Is that better? Sloppy? I combine those two
Slumpy?
words.
I would just like to say that throughout the film, her mom kind of is projecting when they have those arguments. Like, you could tell that deep down she's insecure and scared because of their financial status. She takes it all out and nitpicks at Ladybird and projects those problems onto her because of her own problems, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and it's also you also find out that her mom's mom was an abusive alcoholic, so I think that it definitely plays into it.
Honestly, like, I kind of hated her mom at the beginning of the movie, but then I kind of grew to, with each fight, I kind of understood why she was the way she was and why she nitpicks at her and all of like the nice things that she does for her. And I don't know,
Hmm.
I grew to like her.
Yeah, I liked her a bit more by the end.
Hmm.
So then it's the next day, and Ladybird is with the college counselor, and again, they're so like mean about going to school. She's like, "Yeah, you couldn't go to this school. Like, your grades are so bad. Like, how could you ever? You like, why even apply there?" Um, and then she's like, "Oh, you have unusually good SAT scores." Just like, that's a terrible college counselor.
I don't think any college counselor would say that. I think anyone who's, I guess maybe she's not trained to be a college counselor, but you would never say that to a student. Like, you would
Yeah, it's
never
just
straight up laugh at them and say that they can't get into that school.
I couldn't imagine. Like, I had 4 college counselors in my time in high school, just because none of mine ever stayed at our school, but none of them would have ever said that.
Yeah.
Because that's so like you just kind of lose all hope if they said that.
Yeah, you have to build these kids up. They're probably already stressed as it is that whatever college they get into is going to affect the rest of their life.
Yeah. But after that, Ladybird is with Danny, and they're dancing through a garden or something. And honestly, it was so cute.
I know.
I was like, this is so sweet. And then Ladybird's like, pick a star for us. And they name it Bruce. And then she tells him, she's like, you can touch my boobs if you want. And he's like, no, I respect you too much, so I won't.
That respect. Well, okay. So we kind of find out why he won't touch her boobs. It's not because he respects her, but because he's not attracted to women.
But she says to him, she's like, well, if you had boobs, I wouldn't touch them either, out of respect.
Yeah. And then they say I love you to each other for the first time, but in my notes I wrote they say I love yous. And I sound like I'm from Philly by saying yous. Yous.
I genuinely think that Danny loves Ladybird, though.
Yeah, just not in that way.
Like, yeah, not in that way. Anyway, it's the next day at school, and Julie is with Ladybird, and they're walking around, and Julie has to go to class while Ladybird has a free period, but Ladybird decides to wander into a classroom, and you don't really know what classroom it is or anything. She like steals a binder and then just throws it away.
Wait, can we backtrack for a second too?
Yeah.
So Julie has history class, I think, while Ladybird has a free period, and Ladybird is like, no, please, I don't want to be alone. Stay with me. And Julie's like, I need to get good grades. I want to pass this class. I'm getting good grades, but if I don't show up, I'm going to fail. And it kind of shows how toxic of a friend Ladybird is to Julie. She just expects she thinks that her life is more important than everyone else's and that everyone revolves around her. Which kind of annoyed me.
Oddly, like, it's kind of funny though, because I feel like that was Beanie's character in the last movie.
Yeah.
Like, she just like switched parts.
Yeah.
But yeah, I agree. The way that Ladybird treats Julie some of the time, and then kind of from this point on, or like in a little bit, like till almost the end of the movie, there's just not great.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, then Ladybird goes to the thrift store with her mom, and they're like yelling at each other back and forth, but then they're also like, oh my gosh, look at this dress. And they're, because Ladybird needs a dress to go to Danny's grandmother's house for Thanksgiving. And she gets this pink lacy dress.
You also see that her mom spent like all night sewing the dress for her to make some alterations for it and placed it in her closet but didn't want to wake her up.
And then it's the next day in math class, and the math teacher's like, well, my grade book has been misplaced. So that's what Ladybird threw away. It was the math teacher's grade book. So he tells them that they can recreate their grades with an honor code by going up to him and telling him what they think their grade was.
That is such a Catholic school thing to happen.
And Julie goes up and is like, A minus? And he's like, no, it's definitely an A. And she's like, thank you. And then when Ladybird comes up, she says, it was a B. He was like, no, I think it was more like B minus C plus range. She was like, no, I did really well on my last quiz. It's a B. He's like, I think you only did a little bit better. But she's like, it's a B. So he gives her a B. And now it is Thanksgiving. And Danny comes over to Ladybird's house to pick her up to take her to his grandmother's house for dinner. And now that I'm thinking about it, I didn't think about this before, but he like comes up to the door and he knocks and he comes inside and he meets the parents,
Mm-hmm.
which Timmy C doesn't do later. Which, yeah. But anyway,
he also laughs because Ladybird, when they first met, Ladybird told him that she's from the wrong side of the tracks, and he took it to be a joke, like that's just how she speaks. But then she literally lives on the other side of the train tracks, and he points that out to her family, and her family's like, what? Like, what? She's from the wrong side of the tracks?
I don't know. I thought it was funny too. Like,
yeah, but
I didn't.
It plays into the idea that she's embarrassed to be not in the rich neighborhoods and stuff like that.
Yeah, I guess. I think they just take it poorly because of how she's treated them in other ways.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah.
And because they're insecure about their financial status.
Yeah. So then they walk to his grandmother's house, and his grandmother lives at the blue house with the white shutters that her and Julie had been talking about at the beginning. And Ladybird like gets along really well with their family,
mm-hmm.
and she like folds all the napkins for the grandmother and everything.
Okay, I have a question for you. Is Danny and his family, are they Reagans?
I don't know.
Because she points.
She has the poster.
Yeah, she points to the poster and is like, "Ha, that's funny," and he's like, "No, like that's serious."
I thought like he meant that as like she really supports Reagan, or like she really supported Reagan.
Oh,
I don't know. Like, I mean, maybe
let's look online. Let me just do this. I think so. I think maybe just his neighborhood.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
So then yeah, they're like she was a big supporter or something, yeah. I guess. Okay. But after the Thanksgiving dinner, Danny and Ladybird meet up with Julie and some guy. I don't know who the guy is.
I have no idea. He does not show up again.
Yeah. And it looks like they did some kind of drug. I
think they're smoking weed.
Like, yeah. And then they go to a band concert, and Timmy C is playing bass.
Dude, Timmy C is the bass player in an indie band. I have no words.
Yeah, I just wrote cute.
That's not what I wrote.
And the math teacher is there.
He was. I didn't even notice because I was too busy looking at Timmy.
Yeah, Julie notices him. So, because Julie's in love with the math teacher.
Dude, you know how I love my indie boys.
Yeah. They're the skinny white boys who look like they haven't slept in days.
Yep. Timothy
Anyway,
Chalamet is different though.
Charlemagne?
Isn't that how you say his name? Chalamet.
It's Chalamet. There's no R.
He's the love of my life, and I can't even say his last name right.
Oh my god. Yes. Yes.
I don't even remember what I said.
I don't know what you said either.
But yes.
Yes. So after the concert, they go back to Ladybird's house and they're like microwaving 6 dishes at the same time.
Yeah, they're ferociously hungry because they got high. And
And they can't stop laughing.
Yeah, and they're eating Thanksgiving leftovers, which sounds really yummy.
And then her mom comes down and is like, I was surprised her mom didn't get mad.
Her mom is so chill about some things.
Yeah.
I love her mom at the end. Like, I hate to love her.
I just like really appreciate how she handled that.
Yeah.
I think that was like a point where I was like, oh, I like her more. And then everyone leaves, and Shelly, who's Miguel, her brother's boyfriend, or her brother's girlfriend. I kept writing that, like, her brother's boyfriend. I don't know why. Maybe I knew about Danny at that point. But Shelly's outside smoking, and then Ladybird joins in, and she says, or Shelly tells her how sad her mom was that she wasn't there for Thanksgiving. Which, like, oh.
That is sad. But she also says, she opens up and says that, so Shelly says, Sally sells seashells. Shelly says that she got kicked out of her home for having premarital sex with, I'm assuming, Miguel. I would hope it's Miguel. And Ladybird's mom took her in, and she's basically family to them.
Yeah.
And you start to respect Ladybird's mom even more at this point.
Yeah, that's...
Oh, I don't think we ever mentioned this, but Ladybird and her family are not devout Catholics. Like,
no.
Ladybird's only in Catholic school because her brother saw someone get stabbed at the local high school.
It's insane.
Yeah.
But yeah, so the next scene is the opening night of the musical. And I was just like, what is this? Because it made no sense.
It looked how our high school plays look, honestly.
Yeah. After the show, Julie goes up to her math teacher and he has a pregnant wife and she gets really sad. But also, once, like, the math teacher and the wife walk away, Julie goes to sit down next to the theater director and they're both really sad. And he's, like, upset because he's like, they just don't understand the musical. And I wanted to cry.
I'm, like, starting to tear up, honestly.
Like, I was so sad. Like, I didn't understand it, and I felt bad. But, like, I also didn't see the whole thing, so...
I just want to give the theater director a huge hug.
I know. And it happens later, so I don't want to say anything, but, like, it made me really sad. But anyway, after...
On that note...
After the musical, everyone goes to a diner, because that's what you do in a small town after a musical theater performance. You gotta go out to the diner. But while they're at the diner, Ladybird has to go to the bathroom, and they're waiting in line in the women's room, but the line is too long, and then they instead go into the men's room, and the first door they open, they see Danny kissing a boy. I don't know who the boy is. Do you?
Probably some cast member.
Okay, yeah, it's just some other boy from their high school, and they run out to the car and they're like laying with the backs all the way to the ground and sad music playing, and they're just crying in the car.
Any song. They're listening to Crash Into Me by Dave Matthews Band. And no offense to anyone, but an awful song. Awful. I hate that song. Crash into me.
Yeah, she's sad about it. But you also see like more performances of the musical, and she won't hold hands with Danny at the bows at the end, and it's sad. And then it's Christmas time, and they had a very small Christmas. And then later in the day, Lady Bird is in her room, and her dad knocks on the door. For Christmas, he gives her the completed financial aid application, and she has her brother drive her to drop them off at the post office as soon as possible. And then we see it's New Year's next, and they have 2003 glasses on. And I should have like caught on then that it was the early 2000s, but I was like, maybe they just reuse New Year's.
You couldn't tell by the way they spoke.
I don't know. Terrorism has been very prevalent since 2002. It's like I could have placed this movie at any time.
True. But also on New Year's, you get to see that their entire family is bonding. Like Miguel, Shelley, the mom, the dad, Ladybird, they're all having a grand old time.
Yeah, it's a really good like night for them. And in the new year, Ladybird also gets a job as a barista. And on her first day, she looks out the window and she sees Timmy C outside reading and smoking. And she goes outside and is like, I really love your band. And whatever. And he says something in French.
Oh, he says...
What does he say?
He says his band is L'Enfance Nu. Ew.
Wait, why is that their band name?
I don't know. It means like what? The new childhood?
The new child. Yeah.
I don't know. It sounds nice though. Especially
it sounds nice in French.
Especially when Timmy says it.
We also finally find out his name.
Yeah.
His name is Kyle.
I kind of hate his name.
I hate it. You could have given him a better name.
Yeah. But Timmy, Kyle, says to Ladybird that she should, if she likes his music, she should see him at the Deuce. And I thought that the Deuce would be some sort of like bar or place where bands perform, but it's not. You'll find out later.
Yeah, I was like, this is so weird.
Yeah. And then her new boss, on her first day of work, comes out and says, I'm not paying you to flirt. And Ladybird says, I wasn't flirting. And then Kyle says, I wish you had been.
Cute.
Wow.
And then we are back at church.
That's where I need to be.
Oh my god. And during church, Ladybird keeps looking over at Kyle, like throughout the entire day, pretty much.
Imagine him making those eyes at you at church.
Stop! Please. Oh my god. And then they're in class, some class, and Jenna is talking about the first time that she had sex, and one of the nuns is going around skirt checking everybody.
That is a very real thing.
And Ladybird is being really nice to Jenna because she wants to get close to Kyle, and Julie starts to notice that, and Julie's like, oh, well, you can't like go hang out later today because we have theater auditions. But Ladybird's like, no, I don't want to do that anymore. She's like too cool for it or whatever. And so Julie goes to the theater auditions alone.
Well, I just wanted to point out that Jenna asks Ladybird what her name is, and they go to a really small all-girls Catholic school. How does she not know her name?
Yeah.
It doesn't make any sense.
She'd at least, like, know her in passing enough to know her name.
Yeah. And they're also in class together. Like, how do you not know? But Ladybird is basically saying that she's not going to try out for the play, so she's being really uncool to Julie, and Julie goes alone.
Yeah, and at the theater auditions, the normal theater director is not there, which is really sad. And it's the new director is like the old JV football coach. But at the same time, Ladybird is with Jenna, and they're outside pranking the nun who told Jenna her skirt was too short. And it says like married to Jesus.
I thought that was kind of a
And
funny prank, like
it
harmless.
was funny. Ladybird is telling Jenna that about the house she lives at, and she is describing Danny's grandmother's house. And then Ladybird suggests that they go to the Deuce because Kyle might be there. And when they go, it turns out the Deuce is just a parking lot, which is weird. Like, why are you hanging out in a parking lot?
It doesn't make sense, but high schoolers will do what high schoolers do. But then Ladybird and Jenna go up to Kyle. They see him sitting there reading, and they say,
He's always reading.
"We love a well-read man." But then they say to Kyle, "Oh, we just pranked the nun. We did XYZ," and he says, "That's hella tight. Ew,
Like, what? This is
ew."
like, I cannot imagine him as like a weird high school white boy. Like, he seems so much more sophisticated than that.
I know. It really took a lot to get me back to liking him after he said it's hella tight.
Yeah, I was like, who are you?
Ugh.
Ugh. He also like casually tells Ladybird that his dad has cancer,
Yeah.
but then also asks her for her number, and then and then she tells him, she's like, this isn't my phone number, it's my parents' phone number. And he's like, you don't have a cell phone? And she was like, no. and, he, and he says, good girl. Yep. Yep.
Wow.
But like, the one thing though, the reason he says it is because he's like, these are tracking devices made by the government. And I didn't expect this scene to be because of conspiracy theories.
He do be speaking facts though. I have to say.
But this was the infamous Timmy C good girl scene.
Him saying good girl really made up for him saying hella tight. I think those two cancel each other out.
Yeah, but he also like says it later.
I know. He says other things, so that'll.
It's just weird. Like, why are you saying this?
I know. I really wish that he was a good guy in this movie.
I know. I thought he would be, and I was so disappointed.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, then Ladybird is back at the coffee shop working, and she sees Danny walk in, so she like walks out to throw the trash away instead of like being in there with him. And he comes out around to the alleyway where she's throwing out the trash to talk to her. And the first thing he says is that his grandmother missed her at Christmas. And then he's like, your mom is scary. But she's like, no, everything she does is out of love. He says like she's still a little scary. And then Ladybird's finally like, you're gay. And he says how scared he is to tell his parents because his family is very, very Catholic. And he gets very upset. And she's...
Okay, she assumes that he's gay, but he could... I realize this is in 2002, so people were labeled, but...
And there's not as much visibility for...
Yeah.
For other sexualities, yeah.
But she just assumes that he's gay, and meanwhile, he could be bisexual or pansexual. Like, that part kind of annoyed me.
Yeah, that's true. But regardless, he's scared to come out to his parents, no matter what his sexuality is. And he starts crying, and like she just holds him. And she promises that she won't tell anybody. Like, this is all he can do it at his own pace. She'll be there for him no matter what. And it was really sad, but also like it was nice to see him or see her be there for him, no matter what.
So it's the start of a great friendship.
Yeah, it made me happy that they were like together, like not together, but they were back together. You know.
Yeah. You're back in cahoots.
And then, this part makes me so sad. We see Ladybird's mom at work, and she's talking to someone, and it's the theater director. He's at the psychiatric hospital, and she asks him if he had like anyone he talks to when he feels this way, and he says there's no one that he can talk to. It's just really, really sad because like he's clearly very depressed, I'm sure there's lots of other things going on relating to what Allie had said earlier. We don't know if what she said is true or not, but he's just clearly not in a very good place, so it's really sad.
Yeah, that part made me like start to tear up, honestly.
Like, he's such a wholesome, all around good guy, and it's really sad. But anyway,
Then we cut to Ash Wednesday. It's Ash Wednesday, my dudes.
they get the it's like a cross on there. I only had that done in preschool. I've never had that done any other time. It's like,
I'll explain it. At the start of Lent, you get the priest puts a cross on your forehead in the in with ashes. I don't know where it's like oil. It honestly made me break out every time I got it, so I stopped doing that.
yeah. But there's that, and then they're at home, and Ladybird is logging into, I guess it's kind of like the FAFSA website or something, or College Board or something. I'm sure it's different. Whatever it was then, it's very different now.
Yeah.
But it's to check if she got financial aid or anything, I think, or got into any of the UC schools, and she got into UC Davis, but not UC Berkeley, which is where both her dad and her brother went to school.
So basically, at this point, you can kind of see the similarities between Ladybird and her mom, because whenever her mom gets bad news, she always lashes out at someone else in the family for something really small. And so when Ladybird gets the bad news that she didn't get into UC Berkeley, she starts lashing out at her brother and Shelley. And she says something awful. She says that Miguel and Shelley will never get jobs with their piercings, and like she's just mean to them. And she projects just like her mom.
Which, like, it makes sense when that happens, you know.
Mm-hmm.
If that's what she's learned from her mom, then she would do that as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, and then she goes to a party at Jenna's house, and Jenna's like, yeah, my parents are upstairs, they don't care if you drink or whatever. But she sees Kyle across the pool reading and smoking again, and she goes over to him and she pulls out clove, is that what she said?
Yeah.
And he's like, oh, I don't smoke that industrial cigarettes. Like, he's totally against the man, and he's like, I barter instead of like I just barter for everything.
He's trying to live by bartering alone. But yeah, he goes to a Catholic school where his parents pay tuition.
Yeah, and he says he's doing it to make his dad happy, and that's why he's fine with it. But then they start kissing, and then they are wildly making out.
Ugh.
And they're both like also saying how they haven't had sex before, and then they like go into a room, and Ladybird says like something about a tanning bed.
Yeah, so at the beginning of the movie, there's this rumor about Jenna that she's so rich that she has a tanning bed in her house, and that's why she looks so glowy all the time.
Oh.
So then they end up in the room where the tanning bed is.
Okay, then yeah, all right. And she like brings up Julie, and it's like, oh, Julie would love this. He's like, who's Julie? And then it cuts to another scene, and so you're not sure if they had sex or not, but then you kind of assume that they didn't.
Mm-hmm.
And then she's back at home, and she took a bath, and then her mom comes into the bathroom. Well, before that, she's like has the drawer pulled out so someone can't open the door, and she finds these pills in the bathroom, and then her mom comes in, and Ladybird asks her mom when it's a normal time to have sex, but then she also asks if her dad is depressed, because she found these pills that have her dad's name on it. And her mom says that money can't make you happy, like having a good job won't make you happy, and her dad hasn't been happy for a long time. And after that, Ladybird and Jenna are at Jenna's house, and they're swimming, and Jenna explains that she doesn't ever really want to leave Sacramento. She likes it there, and she wants to be a mom and have her kids grow up the same way she did, while Ladybird's like, I have to get out of here, like, I don't want to be here. And honestly, Jenna didn't seem that bad to me. Like, I thought she was going to turn out to be really, really mean.
Yeah.
But
Jenna just doesn't care about anything, really.
Yeah. And then the next day, we're in math class, and Ladybird notices that Julie isn't there. She goes to find her at her, like, outside of class, and Julie won't talk to her. Because, I mean, we haven't seen Julie in the movie for probably about, like, 30 minutes or whatever, because Ladybird hasn't been treating her nicely. Like, she literally just hasn't been talking to her at all.
Yeah. She's instead hanging out with the quote-unquote cool kids.
Yeah. And she's like, calls out her mom having had her at 19.
She basically calls her a mistake.
Yeah, pretty much. And then they're at this, like, abortion assembly, which I didn't know if that's actually a thing at Catholic schools.
Yeah.
Which was crazy. And
they teach you from a very young age that if you have an abortion, usually the person speaking wouldn't be alive.
Yeah. So the person speaking, like, tells a story about how this woman, like, was going to have one, and then something changed her mind, and that baby was the woman standing there. And Ladybird is like, well, just because something looks bad doesn't mean it's morally wrong. And the woman speaking makes her say that in front of everybody, which she does, and then she gets suspended for it.
Well, that's not why she got suspended. She got suspended because she said, if your mother had the abortion, we wouldn't have to sit through this presentation.
Yeah. And now she's home, and her mom is just yelling at her because she's suspended, and her mom's like, you don't appreciate anything. You don't realize how much it costs to raise a child. And then Ladybird's like, give me a number, and whatever that number is, later in life I'll get a job and I'll pay you back for everything that it costs you to raise me, so I don't ever have to speak to you again.
Awful.
But then her mom, sorry.
Oh, that's just an awful thing to say. And they're arguing while her dad is just playing solitaire on the computer.
Yeah. And then her mom's like, no, you couldn't possibly get a job good enough to pay me back for everything that I've done for you.
Awful again.
Yeah. Then it's the next day, and Ladybird's just at home because she's suspended, and Jenna calls the house phone and is like talking about how they left school earlier or whatever, and she's like, guess where I am? I'm outside your house. And Ladybird's like, no, like, leave. You can't be there, because Jenna goes to the blue house that's Danny's grandmother's, because that's where Ladybird told her she lived. And then Jenna comes to her real house. And honestly, like, the way, like, she's upset that she had lied to her. She's like, you lied to me. Like, why would you do that? I wouldn't care. Like, you could have just told me because you weren't honest. Like, now I'm upset.
Mm-hmm.
Which, it's valid. Like,
very valid.
You shouldn't have to.
She's also assuming something about her character. Like,
yeah.
She assumes that if Jenna found out she wasn't rich, that they wouldn't be friends, and that she's really shallow. I would be offended if someone did that to me.
Yeah. And Ladybird asks her if they're still friends. She's like, I guess, because I'll see you around because you're still Kyle's girlfriend or whatever. And I didn't know they were dating.
Yeah,
but
they never established exclusivity.
Yeah, I guess they're dating. So then she's at Kyle's house, and they're in his bed and making out and whatever, and she's like, I'm ready to have sex, and he literally is just like, okay, cool. And also, it's like maybe 5 seconds.
Literally, I wrote 5 seconds.
And then it's done. And she's like, we deflowered each other. And then he's like, well, I didn't lose my virginity to you. And she's like, what? He's just like, no, like, I've probably been with, like, maybe 6 people. Yeah, so she's really upset. And
rightfully so.
Yeah, completely valid. And she asks him if they're still going to go to prom together. And he's like, sure. And that's all he says. And she walks out of his house, and before she leaves, you see his dad in the living room, like, on an oxygen tank, which is super sad.
Mm-hmm. But you kind of understand why he's so nonchalant about everything, because if he had the capacity to care about everything, Like, think about having the weight of your dad being in that condition on your shoulders.
Yeah.
I mean, he just doesn't have room to care about anything else.
Yeah. So then she just goes to sit outside and she waits for her. Well, she thinks her brother's going to come pick her up, but it's her mom who comes to pick her up, and she starts crying because she's really upset about it. And then this was a really like sweet moment. Her mom's like, "Do you want to go do our favorite Sunday activity?" So what they do is they go to the open houses of really fancy houses, I guess, on the 40th blocks,
Mm-hmm.
which is fun. And then she's at home again, and the mail comes, and it's letters from schools, and she's declined from all of the ones that the letters are, except for one she's put on the wait list. And then it's another day, and she's with her dad. He goes to an interview for a new job. While they're leaving, they see Miguel, and he's applying for the same job. But his dad's not upset. He's just like proud. He's like, "Go get him! Like, you can do this." And now that Ladybird is back at school, she's in the main nun's office or whatever, and she says she won't punish Ladybird for the prank because she thought it was really funny.
Honestly,
Which
gotta love her.
she was like, "I did marry Jesus. It wasn't recently though. It was like 40 years ago."
But then she also says that reading her college essay, the way she speaks about Sacramento or writes about Sacramento, um, shows how much she loves it. And Lady Bird's like, "What? Like, I hate Sacramento. I talk about how much I hate it." And she's like, "Yeah, but you only talk about Sacramento and how much you want to leave. You give it so much attention." And then she asks this question that we all must reflect on. She says, "Are love and attention the same thing?" And if you apply that to her relationship with her mom,
Mhm.
it you can see the overlap between like Ladybird's disdain for Sacramento and her mom's relationship with her. If that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I agree. You can definitely see that. So then they're at the thrift store again, and Ladybird's trying on prom dresses. But while they're trying on dresses, Ladybird puts on one that she really likes, and her mom's like, "Oh, is that too pink?" And then Ladybird gets upset. She's like, "Why can't you just like say that you think it looks nice on me?" And Ladybird asks her mom. She says, "Like, do you like me? Like, I know you love me, but like, do you like me?" Which I think is everyone loves their kids, but do you like the person that they are? Which is, I don't know. It's always an interesting thing to think about.
And her mom doesn't even say yes.
So then it's prom night, and she's sitting inside waiting for Kyle to show up, and he just honks. And she gets in the car, and Kyle and Jenna and some other guy are there. And then Kyle's on the phone with someone, and he's like, "Let's ditch prom and go to this other guy's house instead."
Mm-hmm.
And Ladybird first agrees to like be cool, and then Kyle disses whatever song is on the radio.
It's Crash Into Me by Dave Matthews.
Oh, it is again.
Yeah.
And then she's like, "You know what? No, like I want to go to prom. Like, please drop me off at my friend's house." So she goes to Julie's house, and it's a weird like motel apartment thing again.
Again, I wrote that too. Why does she live in a motel in both movies?
If like I don't know, it's like, does California have these like motel looking apartments? I don't know.
There has to be something that we're missing. We probably sound so stupid to people who live in California.
To all our listeners in California.
We don't have any listeners in California. We don't have any listeners.
Yeah. But anyway, she gets there, and Julie isn't dressed to go to prom at all, and she's been crying clearly. And I think it's just because like she was like, this was her senior prom. She's supposed to go with her best friend, and they haven't spoken in it seems like months at this point. But then things turn around, and they just like eat a whole block of cheese, and then they're like, "Let's go to prom."
Honestly, the ideal night.
And it makes me so sad because all these movies have prom. I want to go to prom and have a good time.
Did you have a... No, actually, you had an awful time at my senior prom.
That's what I brought up. So Julie and Ladybird are dancing together at prom. Super cute. They take all these pictures. But then I wrote, remember when you were mad at me at prom because I didn't tell you I was having a panic attack?
Yeah.
Oh, that was a
You
night.
were just straight up struggling, and I was like, where is Isabel? I had absolutely no idea where you were.
I was like having a breakdown. Okay, anyway. So then they leave prom, and Ladybird like lets Julie know that she's had sex before, and they're just talking about that and how Julie isn't going to be around for the summer and is actually going to her dad resurface and she's going to spend the summer with her dad and she isn't going to college
Mm-hmm.
in the fall. Which there isn't an explanation why.
Do we assume that something happened between her mom and David Wallace?
Yeah, I think so because earlier she had said that they were fighting.
So maybe she can't afford it.
Yeah, that might be it.
And that's maybe
Um,
why she's living in the motel.
Maybe it isn't like a apartment thing. I don't know.
Yeah.
But anyway, then we see the spring play. Ladybird's there to support Danny, which is really nice. And then it's graduation. Then it's like the after graduation dinner. She's with her family, and turns out Miguel got the job. And then Danny shows up, and they're just like talking. And then he asks Ladybird, he's like, "Oh, did you hear about the wait list?" And her mom didn't know.
Danny spills the beans.
And she's upset about everything. And this is honestly when I found out that this movie was set in 2002/3.
Oh, because they talk about 9/11.
Yeah, and I was like, oh, what? But her mom won't talk to her. Like Ladybird's trying to apologize. Her mom just will not talk to her, and she's like begging her to say something.
Mm-hmm.
And it's months. They don't talk for months.
Yeah. But meanwhile, she's keeping busy by working 2 jobs. She also passed her driver's test.
Yeah.
Her mom doesn't even wish her a happy birthday.
I know, it's so sad. Like she's in bed on her birthday and then her dad knocks and he brings a cupcake with a candle and she's like, "Oh, you remembered my birthday." Which is super sad.
It's awful.
He's like, "Of course I remember your birthday." And they split the cupcake, which is cute. But also I love that they're showing that she has acne scars.
Yeah.
Which is like it makes it more believable that she's in high school, but it's also just like good to see, you know? So then it's her birthday and she goes to like a gas station store and she buys cigarettes and a Playgirl and a lottery ticket. She's like, "It's my birthday. Like I can do this now." And then she goes home and in the mail there's a big packet. And you know, if you get the big packet in the mail, that means you got in somewhere for school.
Yeah.
And she's really excited, so she goes to whatever school it is that this packet is from because we don't know. They just like won't tell us.
I know.
It's some school in New York though. So then Ladybird is packing to leave and we see her mom like trying to write a note, but she keeps tearing it off and crumpling it. And then they're driving to the airport, and her mom won't take her in. She like barely even says goodbye to her, and her mom just drives away, and she starts crying.
I thought there was gonna be some violent crash scene.
Yeah, but it turns out there's no crash. She just turns around and like goes and parks and like tries to run in to say goodbye to Ladybird, but she's already gone. Her dad already took her to security.
Mm-hmm.
But then she's in New York and she's dragging her suitcases up the subway station and she gets to her room and her dorm room and is unpacking, and her dad had slipped something into her suitcases when they first got to the airport, and she opens it and it's all the versions of the notes from her mom that she had been trying to write, which is sweet that she finally, like, her mom wasn't going to send them, but her dad like kept them and gave them to her.
Mm-hmm. We also find out that like it's kind of implied that Miguel was adopted, but we also find out that Ladybird is their biological daughter and that she was kind of a miracle.
Yeah. But on her first, I guess it's probably her first night in New York, she's like walking through the streets and she ends up going to a party and she asks this random guy if he believes in God and he says no.
You may think that's weird for someone to like straight up like their opening flirting line is, "Do you believe in God?" But that has happened to me before.
Maybe it's a common occurrence. But he also then asks her for her name and she says that her name is Christine. But anyway, they're just hanging out, and then she like leans out a window and is looking at the sky, and then she like calls out for Bruce, which is the star that her and Danny named. And then she starts making out with a guy, but then she vomits. And gets picked up in an ambulance and is taken to the hospital.
That happens to a lot of people on their first night of college. They get transported, which is just weird. It shows how messed up drinking culture is in the US.
Yeah, and they're just like, what do you want us to do with her? She's drunk. Like, there's nothing else to do. She just gotta sleep it off. But when she wakes up, she sees a little boy in the hospital, but she's walking through the street and she ends up going into a church and there's a choir singing, and as she leaves, she calls home, but no one picks up. So she leaves a message for everyone, but she says, Dad, this is mostly like a message for Mom. And she asks her about what she felt the first time she drove through Sacramento, and basically just thanks her for everything that she did for her. And then it ends.
Yep. My question for you is do you think that Ladybird is going to survive in New York for 4 years at college, or do you think she'll move home?
No, I had a feeling she would move home. Like right after the party first. Well, honestly, actually right as she moved in, I kind of felt like she would go back home, but then after church, I felt like she just realized that this wasn't where she wanted to be.
Mm-hmm.
Did you have a similar thought process?
Yeah, I think it's good to, I guess, get out there and explore, because you'll always be wondering what if, but it's good to know that she can always go home.
Yeah. And I think she would have a better relationship with her mom if she went home.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I think even just that day, she like realized how she had been acting and that there can be growth within that relationship, which would be good for them to have.
Yeah. Okay.
But like honestly, overall, I really like this movie.
I appreciated how accurately high school was portrayed. Like, obviously there are some exaggerations, but for the most part, I really liked how everyone looked like they were in high school. They acted like they were in high school. And yeah, it shows that you can have a really good movie that's not ridiculous and doesn't have these extreme views of high school.
Yeah, I thought it was I really liked it. I thought it was very relatable. I also appreciated that it was only an hour and a half.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like everyone thinks movies have to be so long now. But yeah, I really liked it. I really like anything by Greta Gerwig. I think she's a really great director.
Same. She deserves more.
She deserves so much more. She should have, at the very least, been nominated for Best Director.
Yep.
Award shows are not diverse in any way.
Nope. They suck. Oh my god, the delay.
There is a rather large delay now. Yep, there we go.
Okay.
Well, I think this means we should end it.
Yes, I agree.
Yeah. If you know what, we're just not even gonna do the social media thing. You know what to do. Follow us on Instagram.
If you even got to this
to
point,
win the shout out.
If you even got to this point, thank you. Oh my god, the delay.
You are the best.
Oh my god.
Hopefully this works. And we didn't just waste 2 hours. All right. Bye, guys.
Bye.
Hey, congratulations, you've made it to the end of our podcast. We hope you enjoyed listening. How Have We Never Seen This Before is produced by Isabel and Lauren. The music is by Scott Holmes. The podcast art is by Michael Beaumont over at Monitor Comics, and our social media is run by Lauren Cola. Thanks for listening.